So, given that we now awkwardly reside in the post Me Too era, how is that changing the ancient ritual of human interaction? Well, beware, folks, the consent police might be coming to a dance floor near you. Meet Tennille Geeb. She's a captain. No, she's not a police captain or a military captain or even a hockey team captain. She's a so called consent captain. Let me read the lead from a Canadian press story that could easily be mistaken for content derived from The Onion. Here goes. A Victoria event venue has hired a so called consent captain to help prevent sexual harassment and assaults as bars and nightclubs across Canada grapple with how to respond to the Me Too movement. Tennille Geeb, a sexual health educator and intimacy coach, has been hired by the Victoria Event Centre to counsel people who are feeling harassed and to speak with those who are making others uncomfortable. She said she's been doing a similar job at the Crush Collective, a queer dance party, for about 18 months. Yeah, queer indeed. In the story, Tennille says she's not there to police people and their behavior, and then goes on to describe how she polices people and their behavior. Here's how consent captaining works. This creature invites herself over to tables where people are having a good time. She then starts interrogating the partiers, asking if they've experienced or witnessed anything that might be construed as being sexually offside. If someone should point out a person who was offensive, and God only knows what offensive means these days, well, then Tennille will march over to the offending miscreant and give him a tongue lashing. Hopefully, that's all she uses her tongue for. Oh, and if you thought going to a club was a place to kick back with a few cocktails, well, watch out. Tennille also has this tendency to turn herself into the personification of the Women's Christian Temperance Union by singling out people she deems too intoxicated for her liking. Good golly, what, pray tell, is the next logical step for this roving consent captain? How about this? Maybe if she spots a couple hitting it off, perhaps Tennille can pull out a legal document requiring the signatures of the duo, noting exactly what sort of physical contact is and is not permissible should romance take place later that evening. Can you imagine? Hey folks, please sign here and here and initial here, here, and here. I hereby now give you my consent. Wow. Naturally, the usual suspects are praising this whiz-bang feel-good initiative, such as Lane Foster, who is the inclusion coordinator, whatever the hell that is, at the Victoria Sexual Assault Center. Said Foster, quote, "Sure, nightclubs can be wonderful places to have fun and party and dance and engage with your community, but I also think they end up creating spaces where a lot of harm gets done. They're not safer spaces," end quote. Gee, who knew that a nightclub was indistinguishable from, oh, I don't know, the hinterland of Afghanistan? In that regard, I guess we really are so blessed indeed to have consent captains. Although the story fails to point out if Tennille is packing heat, which I think might be a prudent thing for her own safety should she ever try this shtick at the local biker bar. Now, if anything, the fact that there's a demand for such a matron of morality is surely indicative of how we've lost our own internal compasses and perhaps even our humanity. I mean, the interaction between the sexes is all part of the human condition. Sometimes there's magic in the discourse, other times things don't go so well. But even when things don't go well, contrary to the Me Too fanatics, this is not an automatic example of sexual harassment. You know, I think back to how I first met the lovely Lady Menzoid way back in 1988. We were lounging in a hot tub at the fitness club we both attended. One thing led to another, and 3 decades later, we're still happily together. But what if Tennille had decided to get involved that day? What if she had eavesdropped on our conversation and decided that my remarks were unwanted sexual harassment and that it was time for her to do one of her interventions. Well, the point is, this nosy Parker would have derailed a happily ever after story before it even began, thanks to her unwanted interference. And another thing, how is it that this person gets to occupy the moral high ground to begin with? Who does Tennille Gieb answer to? Indeed, how does that ancient Latin phrase go? Qui custodiet ipsos custodes. In English, who watches the watchers? For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, I personally hope to see you at the Rebel Live event that Saturday, June the 2nd. We have all sorts of Rebels coming out. Ezra Levant, Sheila Gunn Reid, John Cardillo, and so many more other fascinating speakers. Please go to therebellive.com and get your tickets today.